going to do something a little different today. Every week on the Meme Team podcast, I break down campaigns of what worked, what didn't, what made people care, and why they cared. And this year, there was just so many good ones, which is kind of the whole point of this podcast. So we could talk through all the marketing campaigns that are out there and what you can use on your company and your strategy to emulate these campaigns. There were so many good ones. So instead of doing a normal recap where I just kind of list things, I wanted to do an award show because some of these campaigns deserve to be recognized for what they actually did really well. We saw Stripe build a miniature city by hand on Black Friday. It's a B2B company. Also, before that, we saw Ramp do their CFO in a Box campaign. It was better than most of the consumer brand content I saw all year. We also saw Timothée Chalamet convince people that he was going to paint the Statue of Liberty orange. We're still waiting on that one. And people didn't know if he was being genuine about it or just, if it was just marketing. I also saw Wallen hid Morse code in his tour visuals and his fans cracked it. So Taylor Swift isn't the only artist out there that's building Easter eggs for her fans to find. These are the campaigns that got people to really participate and not just watch. And I think that's kind of the through line in everything that I found exciting this year. So here they are, my top 5 awards and the 5 honorable mentions.
I really want to talk about Timothée Chalamet again, because he's really out there doing the most marketing for the promotional tour of Marty Supreme. I don't know if everybody saw, but he just dropped the 18-minute Zoom meeting with A24's marketing team where he pitches increasingly unhinged ideas to promote the movie Marty Supreme, painting the Statue of Liberty orange, dropping ping pong balls, the blimp, really honing in on the orange color. And it's satirical, yes, but it's also played very deadpan. So I think it's like hewing the line between is this real or is it not? And one of the things that actually surprised me was seeing that some of the ideas are actually coming out. He was photographed this week with the Wheaties package of Marty Supreme on the box. And then yesterday, the blimp was seen flying around New York and LA. So I was super surprised because I thought it was just the whole point was just the marketing happening within the Zoom call and not the ideas actually appearing in real life. So I think it's a brilliant way of using both his stardom and being of the YouTube generation of being able to, get on camera in a different way than actually being a movie star, which obviously he's very good at that as well. But this is a different type of being in front of the camera, right? And I really want to give props to the team that was on the Zoom call because most of them kept a straight face throughout. I don't know that I would have been able to do that. He's literally mocking the promotional cycle while he's doing the promotion. And the whole aspect of being self-referential is acknowledging the artifice of marketing itself, showing that he knows that his target customer is marketing literate and wants that sort of targeting to happen to them. The big thing too is I think it's also giving a lot of credit to all the marketing that actually goes, or that's actually going behind the scenes for all these movies that come out. It's the first time that I've seen a movie star, aside from Tom Cruise, who also does this very well, using his stardom to try to get marketing to happen in different formats and different channels and not just the regular teaser, trailer, movie premiere, and some big interviews that happen on TV. He's, done the teaser trailer with him, inside the box with the ping pongs flying around and then the guys wearing, the ping pong head. He did the Regal Cinemas, a movie. He invited people through his Instagram for that. So he knows that experiential marketing is super in right now. And then he was seen with the little Hermes Kelly bag that's orange. And he's just been doing all these different things in order to promote the movie, which it's an A24 movie, an indie movie that's going to be really small. So just the fact that he's doing all of this to promote it, hopefully means that it's going to convert to actual people going to see the movie. So have you seen that 18-minute Zoom?
So, I mean, I maybe I speak for some of our listeners here when I say that the boundary between satire and reality, not to get too meta about it, is is pretty blurry nowadays. To put it succinctly, I didn't know that that was a marketing stunt until like yesterday.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
oh,
Like
really?
I thought that was real. And I thought it was
Oh,
like,
how
and
funny.
my like reporter brain immediately went to like, who would benefit from leaking this? Like, what's the
Yeah,
purpose
yeah,
of A24 looks bad? And well, I don't know why Timothée Chalamet would leak it to make A24 mad. Or so I was like, why would they leak? And then to find out it was satirical. And then, you know, I think the same thing, with the blimp. I thought that that was like a hoax or
yeah.
like
Old
a
white shirt,
fiction.
sure.
And then I
Yeah,
found out
yeah,
that it was actually happening. So I think that like on some level, it definitely speaks to this, like the internet moment that we're in now, where like it's sort of conspiracy theory coded. Like there's this like, is this real? Is this fake? Is this marketing? Is this a leak? And I think it's
yeah. Hmm.
brilliant. I think they're probably preaching to the choir. I'm a big Timmy fan. It sounds like you're a big Timmy fan. So
Yeah.
I'm just like absolutely eating it up. But I have seen it. I do wonder, you know, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. Like, well, you were saying this is obviously an A24 film. So
Hmm.
they were indie. I don't know if like they continue to like, I know they have aspirations of becoming
Yeah,
a
so
major.
I think this is part of the change, right? So
Yeah,
up until I think the last 2 years, they have been like an indie studio, and they are slowly making their way into being like a bigger, name brand studio to try to
exactly.
compete against WB and Paramount and all that. Obviously, they're still like, trying to do that. But that's what I think makes this so unique, because I don't think that there's another studio that would have done this,
Yeah.
that would take this chance on doing this. And I think the fact that they're trusting him,
Hmm.
to, not only like I don't know which of the ideas are actually his, right? Versus like which ones he's actually getting pitched on. But it does seem as he's very involved in the whole, ideation, and then, actually, doing the video and the stunts themselves. But the fact that they are, using his stardom to also try to grow their own brand, I think is super smart, because it's like helping them both rise at the same time. Um, yeah. And then just to kind of add on what you were saying about not knowing whether it was like real or not, I think that that's the whole idea of things being memeable and being able to be,
Mm.
converted into like inside jokes.
Hmm.
We've seen this work before, with Taylor Swift and her Easter eggs, right? Like, I think this
Mm.
is his mode of dropping these little Easter eggs for his fans, having his fans kind of jump on board and try to like decimate the entire like message, and then dropping other little hints with like the blimp and like the Wheaties, to then get more attention, which then raises the profile of the movie, but then also him, A24, and then just cause more attention, because now we have, news outlets wanting to cover the whole thing, questioning whether it's it's an absurdist take on like something real, or if it's just pure, purely a farce.
Yeah, I mean, I think my question is this still like an indie marketing campaign? I think the sort of methodology of it is definitely very off the wall and sort of
Hmm.
auteur-esque. And so I think that very much aligns with like the A24 brand and of course Timmy's brand. But what I'm getting at is like, who is the audience for these stunts? Is this, because I feel like it's playing to me and it's playing to you. Presumably it's playing to like cinephile, right? Like it's like, I wonder if this is going to get
Hmm.
like butts in the seats in the same way that like you would want for like a Jurassic Park, like a traditional blockbuster, like an
Hmm.
Avengers type film? Or is this meant
Yeah,
to
so I
like,
don't think
is this
they're
speaking to
aspiring
like,
for that.
yeah. Although like, I mean, I agree, right? Like, cause these are kind of like gimmicky, cerebral
Hmm.
marketing ploys. So I feel like it's meant to like
Hmm.
really whip up the A24 base into attending. But I'm like, I do wonder if they're, to me, this reminds me of like the era of like Leonardo DiCaprio where he was doing like Catch Me If You Can kind of film. It's like a
Mm.
fun, one-off original premise with this hot young actor. I don't know what the marketing looked like for that, but that was a pretty generally appealing film. That was the kind of thing that like the average moviegoer would enjoy. And I get the sense
Right.
that Marty Supreme could be that kind of film, but this marketing strategy to me is more laser focused on like a sort of letterboxed using uh Regal AMC membership type film goer rather than like your average Joe Schmo who goes to like two movies a year.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? So coming up at the end of the year, we have Wicked, For No Good, as well as Avatar. So those are already going to be like the two films that the majority of people
Mm,
are gonna go see, right? Timothy A24, they have to know this, right? So it's just like, what can
mm,
we do to just get more attention? And I think what they're trying to do is, instead of come see the movie because it's like, a really good indie film about, a ping pong player who like achieves his dream against all odds, they're going for like, come because it's like the memeable movie that you want to participate in, and then like be part of the story and experience it with all these other people that are also here on the joke and like paying attention. And I think that that's like a winning strategy, because how else would they get attention?
mm.
And that's what I think is like playing very smartly into this, because they're using his, brand. The fact that he's like super enmeshed in like New York culture, super young, and like the YouTube generation that knows how these things play, that knows memes, and
Yeah,
like wants to create them and then get people to experience it in that way, is the whole point of this like marketing campaign. Whether it's
I
going to work
see.
or not is going to be like really hard, because the movie's coming out on Christmas Day. um it's already gonna be tough going up against, these other like tentpole films, but they had to do something. And so the fact that like he is trying to like do something is such a like smart move, I think, on my part. It's also gonna work into his ploy to run an Oscar campaign for this
Mhm.
movie. He's already getting really good reviews from like the people that have already seen it, and from critics and all that who, need that. But now he kind of wants to build a groundswell movement to get people to support him as he, does this bid, like he did last year. So I think it's like working twofold for him as well.
That's a good point. Like, and we talked about this a little bit. Like, I know in like business you would call this like the key man problem or whatever. Like this, they're very much capitalizing on the fact that Timothy is in this like generational run right now.
Hmm.
He's dating like one of the most famous women in the world. He's
Hmm.
coming off all of these amazing films.
He
He's
might
like,
not be dating her anymore,
oh,
I
maybe they
heard.
broke.
But
That's
yeah,
right.
that's
He's got
part
this.
of the
He's
thing is,
channeling his energy into this.
are they or aren't they?
No, I'm finding this. I'm finding this out in real time.
You must be
Um,
devastated.
Yeah, just I'm not a fan anymore. No, but he's like courtside at all the Knicks
Hmm.
games. Like
Hmm.
he's become this larger than life character,
Hmm.
and they're capitalizing on that, like
Right.
as they should. But to your point, this is very much like a star-driven marketing campaign, and that has the double benefit of obviously promoting the movie, but
Yeah.
really also expanding Timothy's presence in the limelight, which
Hmm.
theoretically would translate favorably to awards buzz down the line. I think it's a brilliant strategy. And you bring up this point of like making memeable moments to
Hmm.
promote a movie. And you're right, we have seen that a lot more over the last year and a half, I guess, almost starting with like Barbenheimer or whatever, but that we've
Hmm.
seen other moments of that recently where you're creating I feel like marketing for films used to just be, it was like offshoots of
Hmm.
the IP itself. Whereas like these marketing campaigns, the orange ping pong ball heads
Hmm.
kind of thing, like they're obviously tied back to the original film, but I think of them almost like, I mean, you're saying memes, that's the best word for it, but they're almost like inside jokes in a way. It's
Right.
kind of like you're creating something that like, what will get people to the theater? Oh, what if they all dress up in costume? Or like, what will get people?
I
And
mean, we
it's like,
saw that with the Minions movie. Young people would go to the movie
yeah.
dressed up in suits, right? And then for Barbie, you went dressed up in pink. So it becomes more about the experience itself,
Mhm.
and what people are going to do, right? And I think that that's part of what he's, counting on here and trying to create that. Is like, how do we get people to think of it more as an experience versus like,
Yeah.
hey, you're just going to go to the movies, on this
Yeah,
day
or
to
like
like watch
we
this.
saw the thing with Begonia recently, where it's like if you shave your head, you get in for
Right.
free, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they
Yeah,
are,
so
I
we're
guess,
seeing more of those
yeah.
experiences being created. Yeah, the shaved of the head. We talked about that here. And then there was the long walk that did, you had to be on the treadmill for the whole the whole
Oh,
movie, or you got like booted from the experience.
that's
So
funny.
yeah, I wonder if they'll create something for that. I'm sure, right?
I think it's interesting because you can't be like, I guess with the begonia thing, that was kind of like a prank. So it was somewhat prescriptive. Come, we'll shave your head. But like, they can't be like, everybody should wear a ping pong ball costume. Cause it's like, you can't tell people what to do. You just have to like seed them with these ideas and see what catches. And I think that that's a little bit of what we've seen with this campaign. It's like, you can't be prescriptive about how what do you call it? Like, you can't astroturf genuine interest. You can't astroturf a meme, right? Like, it has to come from the ground up kind of thing, but you can give people ideas and like templates to work from. And I think that they're doing that with like the ping pong ball aesthetic and the Wheaties box aesthetic, which is like both retro and obviously a tie into the movie. Kudos to the team for saying like, we're going to give people the tools to create memes themselves and hope that sort of one of these catches.
Yeah. Well, cool. So I guess the lesson here is that I think movie promo tours have changed. It's no longer enough to just show up on the red carpet and have that be the way that you're promoting it. We saw recently that Leonardo DiCaprio showed up on the New Heights podcast with Travis and Jason Kelsey, which he had never done before. I'm expecting Timothée Chalamet to also try to appear on the podcast, just to try to get some of those sports fans to show up for the movie, for the movie. But I think it's just going to require a lot more from both, the movie studios. It's not even about the money, though, of course, obviously the blimp costs money. But just coming up with new creative ways to market a movie using the star power of, the actors, and getting them to, do these like absurd stunts in order to get like more attention for the movie. Also, distribution is part of the content now, where it's like Timothée Chalamet dropping, the Zoom call by like the file name gives you this curiosity to see like what it is, using that absurdness of like whether it's real or not, and making people question and having to, dig deeper. As we talked about, like Easter eggs are really popular right now because it gets people to participate more than they would if you had just made it very obvious what it is that you're doing. That confusion causes engagement and it gets people to talk about it, which is kind of the whole point of trying to promote your movie.
Yeah, 100%.
Awesome. Stripe's Black Friday mini city ad. It was like such an amazing way to like show off the different companies that Stripe works with and like that are in the tech ecosystem. So basically Stripe created a live stream miniature city 8 feet in diameter with 15 buildings, 8 motorized elements like trains, blimps, and 100+ figures that was operated by a 24/7 crew of model makers during the weekend. So basically you could tune in to the live stream and just see them building it out during those 24 hours. It was built entirely by hand using paper, foam, cardboard, and acrylic paint. And part of what really stuck out to me is this whole idea of what we've been talking about here previously is the craft versus AI, where it's like there's a bunch of companies that are kind of putting a stake in the ground of we want to focus on craft, on how things are made, on being human made, right? So we previously talked about the Wallace and Gromit and Barber partnership, Apple TV creating the logo from glass, and now we have Stripe kind of creating this and using that as a way to bring attention not only to Stripe but all the companies that are using Stripe. And one of the things that really stuck out to me too was the fact that we've already seen that Stripe cares about that because they have Stripe Press, so that they're creating books that appeal to their consumer and using that as a way to support the arts, right? They're doing it in conjunction to the Stripe business itself. This is year 2 that they've done this. Last year it was all online of building the little city digitally, and this time they're let's make it bigger. Let's build it IRL. And one of the things I was thinking is what are they going to do next year, right? Could they potentially create some sort of Christmas market or an experiential marketing experience at a mall, right? That was something I saw one year done by Hello Sunshine. They brought all the books that they sell and put them all together into the store, right? So it was just a pop up. Did you guys see the live stream?
Just highlights. It looked super, super cute. I actually didn't know, or maybe I just forgot that they did this last year too, but it's super cute.
I didn't actually see the live stream, but I saw so many people tweeting about it, just tweeting when they found their own companies in it, and kind of like screenshotting the different ways that their companies were showing up. What I thought was really cool, kind of like you mentioned, is that it wasn't just, hey, here are my customers, but from what I remember, Crumble Cookies was like a food truck type thing, and they had different companies in the context of where they were. It almost kind of reminded me of The Sims or something like that, where you're in this almost miniature world and you're just looking to see how these things that you're really, really familiar with, how they show up in this world, how they engage in this world.
Yeah, I think one of the things that stood out beyond like the idea itself was like that there was that little like nudge of surprise for like the companies that were featured, you know, because it didn't seem as if like Stripe was like, hey, you're going to be featured in this. It was like, no, you kind of go, you pay attention, you search around for things. So this kind of like harkens back to what we've been talking about like Easter eggs and having people engage with like what you're creating and making them go in search of like your company, right? So I saw a bunch of like the companies themselves and like employees at the companies, you know, showing the photos of like their company being there. So it's like you're getting all this engagement because like people have that surprise and like whimsy of seeing their company featured, but then also how they were featured, right? Like the fact that it's like a little food truck, right? That it's like it still makes sense for like what it is. There were a few of them that were like, you know, coming soon for like companies that are just being built right now and that are growing. So it's like it really shows the thought that was put into it that really correlates with how the real world businesses are doing themselves, right? They even had like TBPN featured as well, right? So it's like all these things that were kind of like inside jokes for people that really know. And then those people then got to share that content of saying like, hey, did you notice this? You know, so it's like, I mean, for me, it was like all day. I just kept seeing like little, you know, photos of the different companies, but then also like the additional context from the people that like know, right? And getting that engagement for themselves. So that's like a really smart way of getting people to play along with you by like wanting to share your content, but then using it to kind of promote themselves in a way.
Absolutely. And we all are in marketing, we're kind of familiar with just how much money you have to spend in B2B, just from the context of driving demand, from the context of the ads that you have to pay in order to get good CPLs and good decision makers in the door and all of that stuff. And so I feel like something like this, where you have a one-time investment and then the rest of it is just a lot of organic marketing and earned marketing from your customers, I feel like is just a brilliant play. And of course, I'm recognizing that Stripe has the brand, has the money. They're, you know, similar to Ramp, you know, they're playing a very different ballgame than probably a lot of B2B companies. But similarly, I think one of the lessons about just putting your customers in the spotlight is that a lot of your customers will then extend the reach and extend the shelf life effectively of your single investment in paid activation.
Yeah, definitely. To your point, Kushaan, just like Ramp, right? Like these are two like fintech businesses that are, you know, would usually be boring type, you know, like they just do like commercials and stuff. And I think when the Ramp experiential marketing thing happened, what I had kind of compared it to was like they could have just done the easy thing, like doing a Super Bowl ad, right? And spent the money that way. But what made it unique is that we know they have money, right? But instead of defaulting to like the easiest way to spend money, they're like, well, what can we do with this amount of money that would be interesting and get us more attention than just, you know, the regular like Super Bowl ad. And I think that that's similar to what Stripe did here, where they're just like, yeah, we could just do, you know, the boring stuff. I mean, we saw, right, like Coinbase did the like Super Bowl ad like 2 years ago. And like, do I really think that like affected them or brought them new leads? Sure, it might have introduced more people, like did the brand awareness, but like, I really think that the Ramp, you know, experience and now this Stripe thing made more people curious as to like what the brand does and what they're going to do in the future, just because like this was so unique and it like stands out for that reason.
I think what also stands out to me is just how human it is. You know, model makers. I think they had professional model makers, right? It wasn't even just like it wasn't even like just volunteer employees. It was actual model makers who like, this is what they do, people building it. And it's the kind of thing that like, it's just very human. Like you can appreciate the craft of it, all the details, and really marvel at like, wow, people really thought of this. You know, I mean, for some reason it made me think about, but I think it was Pepsi who did like an AI generated ad.
Well, so
Like
Coca-Cola did their Christmas.
Was it Coca-Cola then?
Yeah,
it was that.
Yeah. I think what we talked about that here as well, but what stuck out to me about that was that it wasn't the CEO, but like I guess like their marketing person was like, well, the cat's out of the bag. Like we're not putting AI, back. People are just going to use it. So we might as well just use it to create like the Christmas ad, which to me kind of showed that like they just don't care to like keep the integrity of their brand, because the thing is like, if we really think about it, I'm sure Stripe uses AI. It's a tech company, right?
Yeah.
But do they have to use it for this? Like
exactly.
It's the fact that they chose to, bring the human element into it and show like, these are the companies we work with that we're proud to work with, like, and we're highlighting them and their business and like the human side to it. We get real makers to make this thing instead of creating it. I guess they could have doubled down on the digital version that they did last year. Like, oh, we, vibe coded this like new city. And instead they're like, no, let's focus on doing an actual city with actual humans making the thing instead of using AI to like make it easier for us.
Yeah, 100%. So well said.
And there's two sides of the AI coin too, where one is efficiency. And I think to your point, Amanda, there are a lot of opportunities to be more efficient, especially when it comes to marketing and especially when it comes to advertising at scale. But there is also just so much value in good, hard things that take time and take a lot of energy and that you can't really do. I don't think there's any way Stripe could have done this efficiently. It took a lot of work to not only do the live stream, but do the planning, figure out the model making, all of that stuff. And I think it stands out partly because of that too, because so many things are focused on efficiency and focused on being done quickly. When you see things that take a lot of work, that take a lot of thought, and that especially have a lot of tangible impact in the real world, then you definitely admire those more from an activation perspective.
Yeah, definitely. I think also just going off that, Kushaan, is the fact that they live streamed it, right? So many companies these days are let's talk about like the launch video, right? They're putting together like a very neat, like shortened video. And they're like, no, we're going to show you the entire process of what it is to build this thing and show you what that looks like. And I think that also added to the spectacle, because it's like, oh, you get to see it happen in real life and then see how long it actually takes and how intricate it like actually is. And that like, it made me marvel at like, wow, humans can actually do this, I mean, you see it right with like movies. I mean, that's kind of what it made me think about. I was like, oh, like a little city, like, how you saw in like Back to the Future, or they built, like the city and the diorama and stuff. But I guess I just generally wouldn't have had context of how long it actually takes to put that all together. So seeing the like live stream version of it, of like, you see the little, them kind of with their hands, like putting it all together, made me marvel even more. And then respect Stripe even more for being like, no, we're going to focus on the craft of this. So it's like really making Stripe as a company stand out as like a company that cares about like craft and detail and, being good at like what they do. Instead of like, now I kind of just see Coca-Cola as like, oh, we don't care. It's just slop,
Right.
Which is kind of what soda is, right?
That's true. Like, you're going to buy us anyway. Let's be
exactly,
real.
Right?
To that point though, if they built the mini city and didn't live stream it and just was like, hey, look at it, we made this from scratch, the magic would kind of be lost. You'd be like, wow, that's really cool. And then you'd shrug and be like, I guess it took a long time. Yeah.
That's very true. Like if they had just kind of, done it and then shared even just a time lapse, like the joy of it would have like gone away, or like the whimsy of like them actually doing it and you kind of just being able to like chill while it's happening. I thought the other thing too is the fact that it happened over Black Friday, where it's like, you're not, you kind of just have things in the background happening, right? You have like the Macy's Day Parade and like,
True.
you
That's
can just kind of
true.
have it going on, and it's not something that like you have to feel like you pay attention to.
Yeah, that's a good point, because this is making me so sad that I didn't watch it
Yeah.
live streamed. I'm like, man.
Yeah.
My one wish, and I don't actually know, maybe Sonia, if this is possible, is it would have been cool to interact with the companies. I think for the most part, they appeared kind of as billboards or action figures, but it'd be cool if you were to be able to go into Stripe City and you could click on like a lovable or something, and it would, allow you to create something like that. I'm guessing at some point that also probably would be a whole different conversation about who did they prioritize for those experiences. But I think like the idea of, I'm almost like thinking of a world where Stripe City could almost be some sort of like RPG game, and you're
literally a
walking
video game
around and interacting
play.
with Stripe brands and all that stuff. But anyway, I'm sure Patrick Carlson has better ideas than I do for Stripe City.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, next year we'll see the Stripe City video game, That could be a lot of fun. Cool. So lessons here is that kind of like the ramp thing, is that B2B doesn't have to be boring. Like I'm so excited for more people to kind of pay attention to how they're marketing themselves and the businesses that they work with, that it's not just about, buying ads or building SEO and all these things that like we're already doing. I think people are wanting novelty and are looking for it. So companies that have the money, like, start thinking about how you can differentiate yourself versus your competitors. Even with like the Ramp doing their experiential marketing thing, like this is so different that like we're talking about them in the same space, but they're still so different and unique that it makes me look at each company individually. Whereas like, we've talked about this with like the launch videos. It was like the first couple, companies that did it, it was like, oh, yay, novelty. And then now it's kind of like, oh, well, it's just the trend. Everybody's kind of jumping in on it and it's not unique anymore. So that's something for like marketers keep an eye out for. It's like, what can you do that's new for like your company, and then like what also makes sense, right? Because this makes sense for Stripe, right? Where it's like these are all the consumers that we work with, similar to the Shopify, right? With working with TBPN, it's like we're bringing attention to our merchants and the people that we work with, and it's not just about the company itself. Morgan Wallen's concert announcement showed that he knows his audience and the people that are going to be going to the concert. He just announced his Still the Problem Stadium tour, 21 show in 10 markets. It's going to be a football stadium. I started seeing on my Twitter feed all these footballs on the football field with like a little bear, and I was like, what is this? So I went like searching, and it turns out that this is little bear is one of his like mascots. It shows like the planning that goes into this, because they had to work with the athletic department's social media teams to get this, the photo, and then have them all post on the same day, around the same time, and then drop all these like clues, while he was also posting on his own social channel a Morse code that people, quickly figured out. That means, still the problem. So people are like, what's going on? And so, in the age of Taylor Swift, doing Easter eggs, I think this was like a new way that he was able to do a similar thing with his fans, show that he knows them, and then also kind of create mystique around it to, get people to figure out what's happening. And then sure enough, the next day, he announces the tour itself, going to all those like football stadiums. And I thought it was just like a unique way to like announce a concert tour that's like very narrow and like niche, because it's like it's only going to be at football stadiums, which kind of would be the demographic of his fans, and it's bringing to play a lot of stadiums that haven't been used as concert stadiums in a really long time. So overall, I thought it was like an amazing rollout, and a like perfect example of like knowing your fans, creating something specifically for them, and then building a tour around a special experience that only he's going to be able to provide. The second thing actually that I just remembered is what he's doing. He's doing 2 nights at the stadium, and each of the nights he has a completely different opener and like guest artists come and like play with him. It's letting people know that it's going to be a completely different concert even within the same city. So it's incentivizing people to buy multiple, nights and not just come the one night. So Cristin, would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Well, a couple things come to mind when you're telling me about his rollout. One, I love that he was playing around with like his version of an Easter egg. I think Taylor Swift does that so brilliantly.
Yeah.
But like she shouldn't be the only one who can do that, but you have to have a real fired up fan base who gives a shit who like would actually dig through small little signals. So that's cool that it exists in a different genre. I was just kind of laughing thinking about like, oh, even like musical artists and their teams have to do the level of cat herding that like every other industry has to do when they're, getting ready to do a big announcement. So I'm thinking about like them having to coordinate, but that's exciting for those schools and their stadiums. I think that that's a big trend because historically colleges have not really utilized their stadiums, and I'm seeing multiple stadiums do that for the very first time. Like Texas A&M just hosted George Strait. It was the largest concert. It holds the record for the largest concert ever, like 105,000 people. Stanford just had Coldplay. So like some of these stadiums they've historically never done it. I just think it's smart of these colleges to kind of welcome pop culture more into their physical spaces than they ever have before.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was what kind of what was so like unique about this, right? Because and I bring up Taylor Swift a lot because she was the last artist that had like a huge, massive like tour with similar rabid fan base, right? And so artists these days are always going to be compared to that just because that's what everybody knows, right?
Yeah.
Like I've mentioned before, Taylor Swift is monoculture now, right? So it's like everything is going to get compared to that. And then Morgan Wallen, his album last year was like #2 on Spotify, and the only person that dropped him off was Taylor Swift, right? So it's like he's always going to get those comparisons. And so the fact that he and his team obviously came up with this idea of like, let's go back to where the fans are going to be, and that's like football stadiums. We know that a lot of country fans are going to be football fans. He's a huge like college football
and he's a big
like
Tennessee
fan,
guy.
right? So it's like, let's take it back to the people, right? So I love that's how it kind of came out. And the fact that, most of these, stadiums have never, hosted a concert, or it's been like a really long time, goes to show that like there's that creativity of like thinking of how do we get like people to come out, in a new, unique experience, right? I think just the fact that they're going to be doing it at football stadiums is going to attract a lot more people, because just the novelty of it, especially the people that live there, right? That are like huge college football fans
this
of
is
like
big,
that stadium.
For sure. There's a big lore building type situation for somebody like Alabama. Like Tuscaloosa, Alabama doesn't normally pull stadium concerts, so that's cool. One more thing I wanted to bring up about his announcement that I thought was interesting is he did a great hype video when he dropped the announcement. And something I look at as like a comms person who's kind of like, okay, how are they positioning? How are they messaging? There was 2 things that stood out. He does this thing where he walks out with somebody at every concert. It's always somebody famous that everybody freaks out about, which I love, but I also think is strategic for somebody like him. Like he almost got canceled. Do you remember? He's had some scandals. Yeah. So I think it is a smart play for him to pull in like big, well-known celebrities. He's had like Eli Manning and like just the biggest kind of like pop culture names you can think of have walked out with him, which to me is like they're trying to signal like these people support me.
Yeah.
And then there was in his hype video for the launch of the concert, there was a lot of interviews with his fans, which I think was to serve the same purpose, which is like, we love him, we support him, he's so great. Like I just think it's another part of the effort to kind of like recast his image as somebody who is like really loved and followed and has a huge fan base that like is ride or die for him.
Yes. On top of that, two things actually. One is in the video, one of the girls in there goes, I had never listened to country before. And like, he's the first country artist that I listened to. It's showing that he's kind of escaped the country bubble and is now reached like more mainstream, pop culture. The second thing is part of the money that's being raised for the concert is going to his Morgan Wallen Foundation. So it shows that he is thinking about trying to fix his image because of those like scandals that he's had.
Yeah,
Though
I look at it for sure. No, he's making smart steps on his like journey to becoming like universally known as like a good guy.
Yeah.
People love his music, but I think maybe Taylor Swift is again a great example. Like people like need to kind of love you as a person for you to have that everlasting like legacy, and maybe he's thinking about that more now than he ever did before. I see it in like how they message in the things that they put in the videos and stuff. I'm looking through like the professional lens, but I think it's done in a way to just like for sure, and like to get the layman to be like, oh, yeah, this guy is like awesome, let's buy tickets, let's go.
So takeaway for me here is know your fans and start thinking about how you can create a special experience just for them based on what you know about them, and like how you can tie your brand to, college football here, other stars that aren't wrecked in controversy to kind of build you back up, and then doing the corporate social responsibility of like working with the foundation to like give back to the community.
Love it. Very layered, very well done. Now I need to find out when tickets go on sale because I want to go.
Yeah. Zara Mamdani's scavenger hunt, which ended up having over 2,000 people attend throughout New York City, ended up looking like a lot of fun. And this is a cool way for him to get people to come out and meet other people. It's just, I think, another way that he's capturing like the momentum of people wanting to participate and be in person. And speaking from experience, getting people to come out for a political campaign is very difficult. So the fact that he was able to, do this and have so much like fun being created around it, just kind of shows that he's thinking about the campaign differently.
It's so different. I mean, I could not imagine any other politician doing something like this. I mean, it's so creative. I mean, like to come up with like a scavenger hunt, a quest in like New York. So it makes people not just take part in the campaign, they're out, say, exploring New York, getting to know more people, building the community. And at the end of it, my understanding is that the reward was a cup of chai and a selfie with Mamdani. So, I mean, like, how much of a win is that? I mean, he just convinced people to come out for 3 hours, and at the end of 3 hours, they get to take a photo with him and publish it on social media. So that is like canvassing like 10 leagues ahead of anybody else in politics, I think.
Yeah.
Andrew Cuomo could never.
Literally did not, right? Both Eric Adams and Andrew Cuomo both came out to like dig at it and just say like, oh, what's the point of this? And it really shows that just they're not really changing anything that they're doing in order to kind of counteract Mamdani's campaign at all, which is really funny if you think about it, because they're running against him and presumably want to win, but like they're not trying to like learn any lessons.
For me, it's interesting because I'm like obviously like not in America, but I found like when I came across him originally, it was like I had to check like, is this real? Is this like really a politician? Because the campaign is actually so good. I think that the way he shot the original social media, the way it was edited, the typography on the branding, it looked like kind of a cross between Bollywood meets Hollywood in like sort of like downtown New York. When did this, for me, I saw this maybe, I think for the first time, maybe 2 months ago, but when did it take off in America?
It's been pretty quick. It's gotten even more like since he, won the Democratic primary. He's obviously still competing against Eric Adams, who's running as independent, and then Andrew Cuomo, who's still running regardless of whether he lost. So it's just, kind of building that momentum.
So he's coming back. So he's like a character in a horror movie. So that like you think he's gone, but he's still coming back to go again.
Yeah, basically. He's like Mike Myers, will not die.
Let's talk about astronomers' next move. As we all know, their CEO and chief people officer went viral a couple weeks ago for canoodling at the Coldplay concert. Over the weekend, a video with a very temporary spokesperson, Gwyneth Paltrow, aired, and it was a pretty incredible piece of marketing.
Yeah, no, I totally loved it. I thought it was hilarious. There were so many levels to it that you're just kind of peeling back everything. A few of the ones that stuck out to me is the fact that it's Gwyneth Paltrow, used to be married to Coldplay's Chris Martin. They famously consciously uncoupled, which is, possibly a reference to the future divorces of the CEO and the CPO's, relationships. And so she was just kind of answering questions that people were submitting about the company and the scandal, but just like really hilariously avoiding it and
by actually not answering the questions. Yeah. I think they showed that the questions are like, "What do you think about what happened?"
Yeah,
and she's like, "Oh yeah, what is astronomer?" And then gave the dry answers of what this B2B company is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I thought it was like really funny to bring it back to the company and like the employees and like the product that they're building. And semi addressing the question, because it's like they don't really want to talk about it, and that's not what they want to be known for.
Yeah.
So I thought it was a hilarious way of doing that.
Yeah, I think it was great. I mean, the way that where I'm just really impressed with it is that I just can't really think of a time when I've really seen a company truly try to leverage this type of earned media or this sensationalism in this way.
Yeah. I have a feeling that it's due to Ryan Reynolds and his company, Maximum Effort, who are the ones that, put it together. I have a feeling that they approached them, were like, hey, wild idea. What do you think if we were to do this in order to like respond to what everybody wants to know, right? Is like, let's talk about it and just like, flip the script and like actually talk about the company and talk about the product in a way that doesn't make you, shy away from it. I think a lot of companies would just be like, no, we don't want to talk about it. Like, don't even like, let's not discuss any of the controversy. Let's just move on. So the fact that they were able to, make it so humorous and like, talk about it, but in a funny way or address it in a funny way has given them so much more attention than they ever would have gotten, which they probably need because it's going to cost a pretty penny to pay to be a spokesperson,
and obviously, they will know how it does for the company itself as a business, right? But I think it's the kind of thing where if this kind of thing were to happen to most brands, I think most brands would be like, gee, wow, how do we get a piece of this? But I love that they're just going at the gate with, okay, let's just try to tie this back to our business and what we do so that hopefully, right, the right customers will find us, or they will be more easily able to find us.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because everyone's paying attention to them right now, and now even more so because Gwyneth Paltrow, this Gwyneth Paltrow commercial, which I think was great and like funny.
So good. It's too good not to share. I mean, such a great, like, assuming, I would assume it probably cost them at least a couple $100,000. I mean, if you're going to shoot your shot with that kind of budget, it feels like the right choice.
Yeah, definitely. I also think like I want to call out that this is so outside of what so many other companies have ever done. Obviously no one has quite fallen into this type of, controversy, but the fact that they've faced it head on, I feel like isn't really what, crisis PR comms would have advised. So the fact that they are kind of, playing with it and, putting it out there, even like the CEO, Pete DeJoy came out and, thanked the company and the employees, and then Maximum Effort. He's the one that, mentioned that it's Maximum Effort that, put this together. So they kind of went about it in a really, good way by still, calling out to the people that helped them get to this, get to where they are now.